And really because in the spaces where I was on my, literally sitting there crying my eyes out. Really with Ellen Bank, back in 2007 and 8, or was I had to be live to make my house payments. Just didn't really know what I was going to be doing. And so over the course of the last 15 years, I've just really helped students finances, of money, of trying to really figure out how do we now use this awesome vehicle that we have with real estate to actually help us build wealth. And so we're going to talk through some of that stuff and just how do we get out of the day-to-day, like we go from making money and then we don't have then we don't it's super sucky and right. And now is an amazing time to be because I feel like the market shifting. That's when everybody actually kind of pulls their head out of the sand and goes, oh, have I been spending money? What have I been spending money on? What have I been making? I have no idea. And now, yeah. So it's such a great time right now for you guys to really be looking at this stuff, thinking what has been working, what is not working, and then how do we really plan for next year. So that's what we're going to be taking into. We're going to dig into a little bit of cool stuff too, and that's our favorite word. I'm going to teach you guys a little bit on how passes work, because that was something that was became a super huge eye opener for me and just how to build some wealth. So, and I know it's funny where you're like, how does that work? I'll show you guys how that works. So make sure you stick around the end. But I just want to know what we get out of today. So maybe give you some of the like to make sure you walk with in organizing finance. What exactly do you mean by that?
I would say to, I guess budgeting as well, kind of like keeping it on track. So like you said, enough you have money or enough you don't, and make sure you know it.
There's the key, right? Who else? Okay. Okay, what do you mean specifically by that? Nick, what do we mean? Nick, guys. Nick. Like knowing that what you're spending money on the right stuff and then are we actually spending money? So maybe like monthly concepts. All right, anything else? What would you really write off? Can we write off? I'm not saying how much entertainment we used to be able to write off. I would look at here more export versus import. Okay. And also, I don't know if you guys will cover this, but HSA, or I think that there's a couple of options for us with. And I'm not going to get too much into that at this point, but I definitely point you to resources. Okay, so we're going to have a little bit bigger picture today. If you guys have specifics, I've got all the resources for all that stuff. Okay, so some of that stuff too is like there's like another one. I'm like, but you can't. I'm like, yeah, but we're going to be definitely digging into something. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna talk about here is just looking at, this is who I am. I've been a broker, and most of you guys, everybody in this room knows me. I'm obviously doing the team leader of the Thrive at EXP. We've got a lot of our, raise your hands, you guys are with Thrive here. So this is our group here at EXP, and we are having a lot of fun here. I do a lot of speaking all around the country. I also coach for agents all around the country. And then I was a former OP and team leader of KW and broker there as well. So, and then more importantly, I'm a mom of 4 kids. So Haley and Nathan are my biological daughters, and then I got 2 bonus kids. So super fun. We're managed to do all this, and we have the craziness, you know, like as I've talked with Nikki about what we're trying to really accomplish, which is the important things in life, which is how do we buy Taylor Swift tickets today? That was the most important conversation, right? Okay, so your numbers tell a story, and what do yours tell about you? That's one of the questions that we're really sitting here today talking about. So on a scale of 1 to 10, kind of as you guys go through this, we're going to be doing a quick assessment here on really our financial literacy. How many of you guys have ever taken any kind of a financial literacy course? Like, were you really learning about finances? Raise your hand. Cool. Okay, what kind of courses did you guys take?
CPA.
Yeah. She's taken a few. Yes, she's a CPA. Okay. Awesome. All right. What else? Who else has taken something? Dave Ramsey. Okay, that's an excellent one. Yes. Okay. Absolutely. Cool. All right. Awesome. There's so many good things out there, right? And I think sometimes we end up getting so sidelined because there's almost too much. There's almost too many options that we're like, we'll kind of start down a path and then we'll go to another path and we'll go to another path. And it's hard because we don't really have a good solid plan. So what the goal of today is really to teach you how to, we're going to be looking basically at real estate as a whole, because all of you guys in here are real estate agents. How do we now start treating our business like a business and looking at our financials for our business? So these are some numbers I really think that you should be looking at consistently. So GCI, obviously, gross commission income, your volume, your units closed, your expenses, your net income, your money in the bank, your savings for taxes. And then also the most important piece that I'm learning about now that is huge is understanding the tax code to help you invest smarter. And what, it's not just knowing these, it's understanding what the relationship to each other is. So a lot of times, like when we have a lot of emotion tied to our transactions, right? When we're talking about, you know, like if we have a great month or if we don't sell anything for a couple months, right? And then we go, oh, we had a huge year. We sold 35 homes. And I'm like, cool. What does 35 homes mean to you, right? Or if I'm talking with business planning, I'm doing business planning with agents, there is inevitably, it's always like I'm throwing a dart at the wall. I want to make $100,000. I mean, I have probably done 1,000 business plans and 850 of them I want to make $100,000. And my next question to you is going to be why, right? So why is that important? Why is maybe hitting a transaction goal important to you? So one of the biggest things that you can do for you and your business, I know we've talked about in some of the other courses we've taught, is really connecting your financial goal for this next year when you're doing your business planning to a why, understanding what your personal budget is, and we'll go through that, what you're going to have to be paying yourself for a salary, and then what, sorry, things are coming on, and then really what you're looking at as far as like, what else do you want to be doing with that? Do you want to be paying cars off? Do you want to be going on trips to Italy? Do you want to be, you know, saving for retirement? Do you want to be, all these things have dollar amounts attached to them, right? But we kind of just put them in this big broad category and go, someday I'm going to do that. Someday I'm going to save for retirement. I don't want to raising of hands, but I think we all need to be looking here and going, how many of us actually have a retirement that we know is going to be setting us up, and there's a date when we're like, yep, at that point I can actually walk away from my real estate sales business and I can have enough passive income, be it through, you know, through a retirement vehicle of some sort, be it through rental properties, be it through something else, and you know what that date looks like. Most of the people in this room are going to say, I have no clue, or I haven't started, or I've been thinking about starting, right? And what we have to do is really start looking at this is like, how do we really start setting ourselves up? So we use this amazing tool called real estate sales that we all have as an opportunity right now, and use it to build wealth for us, so that we at some point can actually go, I'm done actually physically selling real estate day to day. You don't have to be, you know, some people love doing this, which is awesome.
but how could I have the options or the freedom to be able to choose that? So that's what we're going to get into a little bit today as well. Okay, so on your second page here, I want you guys to flip over your first page and you're going to go on your second page. What I want you to do, this is a check for you. So you're going to go through here. I'm going to give you just about a couple minutes to go through here. And I want you to do a quick financial assessment of where are you with what you guys are working on right now. What are you currently doing with your finances? It's just a quick little assessment for you to take home. Kind of just acknowledging what are you working on, what are you not working on, what do you have to do. Who wants it for her? I'd never do anything. Okay, when you guys get done, to just look up here. I feel like I'm a teacher in a classroom, but that was a good way to. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay, just give a couple more seconds in case it's finish that up. How many, okay, let's talk about some ahas that are kind of coming out of just doing this initial assessment. What are some things that you guys are going, oh, didn't even think about that, or yeah, I'm totally doing these things. I feel good about it. I mean, celebrate the things that you're doing great at too. So I want to hear some like things that you're like, yeah, I got that this last year. Or yeah, I need to get this. That's some things that are kind of big ahas. Who's willing to be vulnerable about where they're at?
I have a great P&L, I have a great budget, and I do it once a year, and I don't review it monthly.
Okay, awesome. All right. So yes, well done though. I'm happy. I mean, you have the P&L, you have the budget. Great job. Awesome. Great. Okay, awesome. Congratulations. That's fantastic. Okay, awesome. Good, good. Any other ahas? Yeah. Fantastic. Do you feel like you are really clear on what you're spending there? Like what your budget looks like on that?
For the most part, it's pretty slim,
Good.
say.
Okay.
So it's
Awesome.
not too many things to.
I love it. Good job. That's fantastic. All right, cool. So this is just what I like to do with this is this is your starting point, right? Like it's not, there's not right or wrong. It's just, this is where we are, right? And all we can do from here is go, okay, what do we need to do in order to get to wherever we're wanting to go? We can never beat ourselves up about where we aren't, right? So we're like, here we are today. Where do we want to go? And let's put a plan in place to get there. Okay, so flow of money. So what goes in, obviously that's your income. What goes out, those are your expenses. And then we have what's left over. How many of us are stoked with what's left over right now? How much would like it to be more? Right? Okay, yes. All of us would always like to have it be more. So what I want us to look at is, right now our income from our sales business, really easy. All of us are aware of this. So our commission, it includes our listing income, our sales income, our referral income, and our leasing income for those of you guys doing commercial properties. Our expenses. So we have two different sets of expenses, and this is something I think that's really important to be aware of. So cost of sales is what does it cost you when, so we have operating expenses. Operating expenses are all the costs of running your business, and what is that going to happen? You're going to have to be paying those no matter what. Cost of sales is what happens every time that you actually sell a property. So listing off, we've got some things that are here that are cost of sales. So commissions paid to your broker. That would be if you guys are with any kind of brokerage and you guys have a split. So I don't get my check until I pay my 20% to my broker, right? So almost everybody in this room probably has the same thing. That is a cost of sale. Okay, we have our gross commission income, and then it's a cost of that transaction. If we have any kind of buyer's agents or listing agents on our team, whose phone's going off? Because you guys are taking shots. You missed it, Lee, right? I said it's shots if you have to, if the phone goes off. We're not doing any kind of donations anymore. All right, so commissions or splits paid to employees or independent contractors involved in sales. So that could be buyer's agents, listing specialists. That could be a showing assistant. Like if you guys are paying them not per transaction or per door, but if you're paying them like based on actually closing the transaction. So it's all the costs that are going to be incurred before you actually get your check. Okay, so we've got gross commission income, we've got cost of sales, and then we get our check. And then after that, then we've got all of our operational expenses, be it our marketing, be it office rent, salaries, equipment. I mean, we're talking, buying your laptops, all of those kind of fun things. We've got education, training, insurance, professional services. All of those are kind of your major categories right here when we're looking at how do we create our budget. And we'll send you out after this class, we'll send you out a sample of an example budget that you guys can start working off of to create your budget for the year. But these are the main categories that we usually try to tag everything, almost everything involved with our business can fit into these categories here. So we've got what's left over. So we've got, after we've done that, we'll have our net income or our profit. What do we do with the profit? So most of the time, what we're doing is this is our typical agent's flow of money. The commission check comes in, and we're looking at that. We get a $10,000 check. What happens with a typical agent's money? It goes into their personal bank account. Okay. So Katie's shaking her head, Nelka's laughing. I feel like we have this is we have one of two on here. So we have a typical agent's flow of money here. Goes into our personal bank account. And what does it go to? Goes to paying off our credit cards, maybe buying something new. Because we're like, oh, we've just closed the house. Let's go buy some new shoes. Like, let's go buy a new bag. It's going to be super fun. And then we're like, yay, we have money in our account, right? So that's what a typical agent's doing. They're not throwing it into a business savings account. They're not saving for their federal tax savings, and they're not investing with it. Okay. So what we want to do, and this is, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Again, this is where we are. This is our baseline of where we are. Now we're working at how do we become a smart agent with the flow of our money? So what we encourage you to do when you're really treating it like a business, just like Karen's saying, like, how do I have my business expenses completely separate from my personal expenses? Because I want you guys to think you are running a business 100%. You are the CEO of your business. Okay. So we've worked really hard to get our checks, right? And then after we get the checks, we kind of stop paying attention to where we're spending the money, what we're doing with the money. Are we actually making a profit? What is our business doing for us, right? And so it's like, we're not real estate volunteers. And I know there was a few years back after the last crash where we all kind of joked around. We're like, I think we're just real estate volunteers because our checks were so small and they were far and few between. And it was, we kept our expenses still pretty high. So one of the things is we're going into a shifting market now that some of us who've been around, and I look in this room, how many of you guys have been in this industry for 10 years or more? Okay, awesome. So and you guys have probably felt the shift then. I mean, that's still even 10 years ago is probably 2012. Who's been in it 15 years or more? Okay, cool. So you guys, I mean, we kind of have some battle wounds. Is that fair to say from some of the other markets that we've been in? And so we go, okay, how do we not repeat the things that we learned last time? Like, we go, gosh, I wish I would have. Gosh, I wish I knew that differently. Those of you who are sitting in this room are in such a perfect spot now because you're getting to learn this before things start getting funky in the market. I mean, you guys, the market's already starting to feel funky, but if you can start implementing this and getting really clear with your money and start treating it like a business, you'll be light years ahead of every other agent that's out there. Because I make no mistake, there's probably going to be about 30% of the agents that are out there that will not be in business next year. And so you guys sitting in this room will not be part of that stat because you guys are here and you're committed to your businesses and committed to doing something different. So this is what we really encourage you when you're looking at a smart agent's flow of money is that the commission check comes in, and I'm going to show you which accounts to be signed up, but we put it into a business savings account. Okay. So it doesn't go into our checking account. We actually are going to have reserves set aside for our business because a good business operates off of a budget, and a good business operates out of having some reserves in their business account. From that, then we pay ourselves actually a salary instead of being like, oh my gosh, we had this amazing month. And all of a sudden now it's like, let's go buy a car. This is going to be awesome. Let's go do this. Let's go on all these trips. No, what we need to be doing is treating this like a business. We pay ourselves a salary for doing our job. And then we get to have like the biggest thing you can write down right now is called discipline equals freedom. How many of you guys on my team have heard me say that, right? They're like, yes, but it makes, I mean, when you start looking at discipline equals freedom, the more disciplined you can be with this, it will actually create freedom for your life. And what I mean by that is it's not going to have, you're not going to be sitting up at night stressing over whether or not I have money in my bank account to be able to pay my mortgage, to be able to make my bills next month. If you do this right, you're going to be set up so that you guys are structuring it and you're living your life, no matter if we have a $50,000 month or we don't get a check for 3 months, everything stays the same. That's the goal here. Okay. So we're going to be starting to learn how to pay ourselves as pay our personal account with the salary, paying monthly business expenses out of our business checking account, and then paying off credit cards. So if we're disciplined enough, like Karin is, say I've got a credit card and I'm not just going to go freely spend on my credit card, that's an option. I'm not good enough like that. I don't do well with that. I realize I go way out of my budget when I have a credit card because I get excited. And then I'm like, so I know myself well enough to know what I should be and shouldn't be doing, right? And I think those are some things you got to be honest with yourself about what are some of my habits around money that I know I can or can't be disciplined with, right? So we're also going to be looking at having a business savings account, having 6 months of reserve in our business savings account. And that would be 6 months of your business expenses and 6 months of your personal expenses. What are you paying yourself a salary? You know, because when you're looking at that, there could be, I mean, when we just went through it, a lot of you that are in this room went through COVID, right? And what happened? Did we lose all of our, I mean, did the entire, like we couldn't even show houses at one point for like 30, 40 days, right? Like things turned off and you were like, what just happened? How do I get through this? What does this look like? So instead of freaking out and going, I'm not going to have a sale, you know, if something like that happened again, or if the market shifted like it did in 2007, I literally went from making about 120,000 a year, which was really good back then, to making $7,000 the next year in 2007, because the market turned off so fast. And we're feeling a bit of that in this market that we're in right now because of how fast the interest rates have risen. So I want you guys looking at next year and really determining like what is it going to take to either keep my sales the same, or do I need to be adjusting my expenses? Do I need to be adjusting for the market? What am I going to go after? What does this really look like? So being very realistic with what that looks like, and having 6 months of savings in your business savings for your business and for your personal. Those are two really important things. You're going to also be looking at having a separate account for your tax savings. So when you're getting that check, you're going to be putting that money into your tax savings account. So you can either be looking at, we'll talk a little bit more about investing. I call it my tax savings and investment account, but you can either be choosing to pay your quarterly taxes out of that, or looking at how do I meet with my CPA and get really clear with things, and be looking at going, how could I start investing in properties and be using some of that as tax write-offs and the things that I can be writing off, so that I can have some tax, basically some tax breaks based on what we have the ability to do within our being a real estate professional. So that we'll get into that at the end here. And then looking again at investing. So different ways to invest. You can be investing in SEPs, you can be investing in Roth. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can be doing different investing vehicles. I love real estate personally, just because that's what we're in the business of real estate. We see all the deals. How many of you guys are like, oh my gosh, I just got my client the best deal? How many of you guys have done that? Right? Why are you not buying it for yourself if it's such an amazing deal? Right? Like why? I mean, how many people in this room own real estate? Awesome. I love that. That's fantastic. I would love next time to see every single hand in this room go up, because this is the tool that we have the opportunity to really change our wealth patterns and what we can be doing with that. Okay, so budgets. So getting clear with your salary that you need for your personal income and your goals. That's probably one of the most important things. I know, Andrew, you're talking about budgets. So when I look at where did my world really shift financially is when I started paying myself a salary and just saying, this is what I'm going to live off each month. And when I say budget, everybody freaks out about the word budget, right? They're like, oh, budget. My budget has a very healthy $1,000 a month for vacations, right? Like, I love vacations. Yeah, my budget has savings for my kids' colleges in it. My budget has, so I literally transfer money into a separate account for my vacations, so that when I want to go on vacation, the money's there, I just pull it out. I mean, even Christmas money, there's a Christmas account there. There's different things that I have done just because it's been so important to me. Like I wasn't willing to compromise on having a Christmas where I was like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to put this on a credit card. I wasn't gonna do that ever again. So I started getting really clear with inside of my budget, what was it gonna look like for me to go have fun, for me to still go out to dinner as much as I wanted, for me still to do the things I wanted to do within reason, right? And then how could I structure that so that once I had those big months and I had my 6 months of reserves, now what do I get to go do with that money? I'm going to go start working on investing in stuff. Or maybe I'm going to take a portion of that and go on a bigger vacation if I wanted to. But I was really clear on what I wanted to do with that money so that I could get where I wanted to go. Does that make sense? So getting clear with your personal budget is probably one of the most important things you can do so that you can just start paying yourself a salary every single month. And this is what my monthly looks like. And then we're going to get clear with our business budget with clarity on what do we need to make, exactly what we're going to spend our money on. And in each of those categories, I'm going to send you guys out I'll send you out the personal budget sheet and the business budget sheet. And I'll give you mine. I do what's called a budget in detail. I didn't put it on here because it's really small. And so it's really hard to read, but it marks out every single thing I'm spending money on, right? Like down to my, like Amazon, what is my Amazon, I mean, I write that stuff off because I'm buying supplies and I'm buying gifts for clients. So I write off that subscription, but what is that going to cost me? I write off my Google subscription. I write off my Apple subscription. I write off all kinds of different things, but that's all going into my business budget. So I know then every month, what should my hard fixed costs look like? And then what are my variable costs going to be? So we're going to have two different things with our business when we're looking at our business budget. And you'll see that when I send that over to you. What's highlighted in yellow is what's variable. And that's going to be like, how many listings am I taking? Okay, each listing I take has photography, has a staging consult, and has, maybe the 100 just listed, just sold postcards around. So what is each listing going to cost me? And that's going to be variable based on how many listings I take, right? So I want to know what's my hard fixed costs and then what are my variable costs. So if I have a whole bunch more escrows going 1 month, I'm obviously going to have to move some more money out of my savings over to my business checking, right? Then beyond what's in my fixed costs, because I'm going to have more variable costs. But so you're going to really see the difference there, but understanding like, what is it going to cost me every single month to run my business? And that's what you're going to be looking at moving over, transferring over every single month. Any questions on that? So business savings, really, I mean, you're really just operating like that. That is your savings. All your money gets dumped into there. And then from there, it gets split out into those other two accounts each month. And then you're living your personal life off your personal account and you're living your business world off your business account. And if you have variations, that's when we're going to start looking at the differences between P&Ls, like Shane was talking about, and what we call budgets versus actuals, which is what you were talking about. So, but here's an example of the budget here, but then you're going to have over on the right side, it's going to have all these different things that I put into mine, just so you guys can start triggering your brain on all the things you're spending money on. Because people are like, oh, I only spend like $500 a month. I'm like, really? Like, do you really? Like, let's start hammering this out, because I want you guys, you really start paying attention to things of what you're actually spending or what you could be writing off. Because I'm going to tell you why you guys are paying so much in self-employment tax. You guys need to be writing off as many things as you possibly can be writing off in your business within reason, not to get audited, or if you do get audited, that you're not going to get called out on. But these are your main categories here. And what these are here, it talks about like your cost of sales. In general, if you're making about $250,000 in GCI, your cost of sales should be roughly about 30%. If you don't have a buyer's agent or you don't have other people working for you, it's going to be much less than that. Okay, because you're not going to have that much of a percentage that you're pushing off. If you've got a big team and you're not doing any of your own sales, but you're pushing everything off, that's going to be much higher because you're going to maybe be on a 50-50 split with everybody. So 50% of your income coming into your team might be going out before you ever see any of the money to run your team. Okay. Operating expenses should be roughly about 30% of your GCI. So if you're looking at these, and when we're coaching and we're looking at these items, this is kind of when they've done the research on all different teams all over the place. they're saying about 12% of your income should be spent on salaries, about 9% on lead generation, 2% on office rent, 1.5% on communication technology, 1% on education, auto, 1% on equipment, 1% on supplies and insurance and professional services. So when you're looking at that and going, gosh, I'm only spending, if I'm making 100,000 and I'm only maybe spending 2,000 on lead generation, well, maybe that's really where you should be beefing up some of your expenses, is really spending a little bit more money on your marketing so that you can be getting more on the other side of it. Okay, so there's some places where if you're like, gosh, I'm way out of whack, I've got so much in salaries. Well, then let's look at it and go, how could we be wiser about where we're spending our money? So these are just some good, like, kind of like big, broad idea. When you're really looking at it and you're peeling out your budget this year, to put it up against this and say, how did I do this year without even knowing these are the numbers? Like, am I on track with the stuff, or am I way out of line with some of these numbers? Okay, any questions on any of that? Okay. All right. So again, accounts to set up here. So we've got a business savings account. So that's where we said always keeping 6 months of your business budget in that account. And that's including what you pay yourself as a salary. Have your business checking account. So all your business expenses, including your salary, will be paid out of this account. Have a business credit card. And I always say use only if you're disciplined enough to just use it only for budgeted items. And that's very, very important. Okay, not be like, hey, we had a good month, drinks are all on me, and then we end up with $1,000 extra, and then you're like, man, gotta pay that credit card off. That sucks, So I mean, that happens all the time. But paying that off monthly, every single month. So maybe you're using it for points or for something like that. That's great. But if you come to realize like, oh, I got 80,000 points, so I actually make, maybe it's about $800 worth of stuff, and I went and spent 15,000 over my budget to get that. Maybe a credit card is not the best option for you. It's like justify it in my head. I'm like, we got points though. What are you talking about? It's good. And then you're going to have your tax savings and investment account. So you're going to be putting a percentage of each check you receive into this account so that you always have money to pay your quarterly tax or invest in real estate. So when I get a check, and this has just become a habit for me, I actually have all of my accounts are set up all of my savings accounts are set up at Capital One. And why? Because they're free. You can make as many free savings accounts as you want. And the other reason was because, what's that?
It's a high yield.
It's a high yield one, yes. But the bigger thing for me was because I had everything at Wells Fargo. And when I would run out of money in my business checking account because I wasn't being disciplined enough, it was really easy for me just to move my money over. And then all of a sudden when you're with Capital One, it takes about 4 days to actually get over to your account. So you have to be really like disciplined. Like that was like, it's like, okay, I don't want to see what I even have over there. I just want to stay focused with like, okay, here's my little, like, I mean, sometimes even we do this with our personal stuff too. I'm like $80, for groceries left this month. I'm like, all right, kids, guess we're not going out. We're going to eat some, we got mac and cheese in there, which is fine. And that's allowed us to be able to do what we need to do because I've been able to stay so disciplined. Had I not had that, so easy to go out to dinner and spend all the money, that you're making without even thinking twice about it, right? Especially in the good years that we just had. Now we're buckling down a little bit more, but I think there's a reason why that's so important. And then I've even recently now moved all of my business accounts over to Chase so that I have personals all at Wells Fargo. All of my savings accounts are at Capital One, and then my business is at Chase so that nothing can get intermingled. It's just, I'm trying to keep it as separate as I possibly can so that I'm really clear with where my money is and what it's doing for me. So it's something you guys could do. You don't have to go to that extreme if you're not, I mean, when I say discipline, because I know I'm not a very disciplined person in certain things like that. So I have to create the discipline for myself. Okay. So any questions on those, on how to set up those accounts? No? Anybody doing anything like that right now? Cool. We got a couple people that are doing that. Awesome. I love it.
I was going to say that Allied online is a really cool setup where you can put the entire amount in the account and then have what they call buckets for this is for vacation, this is for the house we're going to buy, this is for the weddings. So you can see the total amount and each bucket has how much
That's awesome.
Before you said you could say I want 5% going to each other check.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the same concept as the Capital One, like, cause we have like our, our next property that we want to buy. Yeah. That's,
That is so cool.
yeah, that's super helpful. Yeah, I know everyone's like, God, you have so many accounts. I'm like, no, but it's just like, that way it's like, it just keeps me like, okay, this is what that, cause I have my rules for my money to be like, okay, when I get my check, 30% just goes automatically into my tax savings account, right? So then I like always know I've got the money for my taxes, no matter what. I mean, I've done a few years early on when I was like, how am I gonna pay my taxes? And then people extend and I was like, I will never, ever do that again. Cause it's so stressful. Cause then you're like, oh, now I'm just working to pay my taxes. And that was just such a dumb feeling for me. I didn't want to do that. I was just mad when I was working because it wasn't fun anymore. So
You can go to bakery.com too and get a list of like outline synchronicity, Capital One, what the rates are and like which ones are free or what the minimum balance is to make sure you're picking what's offering the best deal.
Cool.
Stuff like this up.
yeah, awesome. That's perfect. So I think the key is though, is just having everything as separate as you possibly can and treating this like a business. We don't commingle the funds. It's kind of like our escrow accounts. We don't commingle those ever, right? Like those are set aside for those. If we can get in that mentality that this is our business and this is how we want to treat our business, and this is what it looks like. We don't bring funds from our spouse's income over to pay for our business expenses. Otherwise, we don't have a profitable business. We question why are we in business then, right? I want you guys just really thinking about how do we keep that separate, and then how do you figure out if you're going to pay yourself a salary for this job, what that's going to look like. Okay, so profit and loss statements. I love profit and loss statements, and I did them forever and ever and ever, right? But profit and loss statements, what they do is they tell you what you spent, what you made, and they tell you what you spent, right? And at the end, at the bottom, it says, did I have a profit or did I have a loss, right? I mean, pretty basic. And I remember coaching somebody early on and they're like, well, how do I know if this is good? And I'm like, well, that's a great point, right? Like, how do I know if my P&L's good per se? And I think so much of that goes back to when you're like, well, what did I intend to make, right? Like we're all in business planning season right now, right? So all of you guys, how many of you guys have done your business plan so far? Okay, if you have not, you need to be getting that dialed in and getting such clarity and focus on what you need to do next year. Otherwise, you're just going to be throwing a dart at that wall and go, hope it sticks, hope it works. I want you guys getting so narrow to go, this is exactly what I need to go after. And this is the things that I need to be doing in order to get there. And if you guys need help with that, I'm happy to do a couple of free business planning consultations with you guys. I know I'm doing it with a few of you guys that are in the room right now and getting you guys some clarity behind what you need. What do you need to take home this year? What are your goals? If you have savings goals, investing goals, fund goals, whatever that looks like. And then that's going to equate to your business plan. What do I need to be making in my business to make that happen? Okay. So if you're not doing that, reach out to me and I'll send you guys a Calendly link to get on my calendar. But a profit loss statement is just going to show us what did we make and what did we spend? And where I love to do with most of my coaching clients is do what's called a budget versus actuals. And what that means is when we've done our business plan and we have a budget, every month we're going in at the first of the month and we're saying, what did we say we wanted to be making and spending, right? Like making is important too, right? It's not just spending. So when we're looking at it, we have a program that we use where we're looking at our income and we're saying, okay, are we on track with what our budget was? If our goal was to take home $150,000, are we in line with what we said we wanted to be doing from an income standpoint? Or how far off are we? And then it does the same thing with our expenses. What did we say in our budget that we made in November that we wanted to spend? And then what did we actually spend? And so when you're looking at those, because sometimes we'll be in situations where all of a sudden our income goes down, the price points go down, or they go up, right? Tremendously, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'm making a ton more money. This is amazing. And our income and our expenses rising at the same level. Or is our income now, because the price points are coming down a little bit, because I think this is something you guys got to start paying attention to, is what our checks look like and what is our income doing? And is our expenses staying the same, or are they going up because now we've got inflation, right? What does that look like? So as we're doing a budget versus actuals, you're really looking at, did I make the amount of money that I said I wanted to make? Am I spending what I said I wanted to spend? And if my income's down by 20%, then I got to start looking at my expenses and go, where am I going to cut? Where am I going to get really clear on what I'm going to cut so that my net profitability is what I wanted? That at the end of the day, that's the most important piece, is your net profitability. Yeah.
would you say that after a couple of years, you can kind of get like, okay, this is on average what I've done, but, or do you suggest like every year, this is a new thing?
I think it's a new thing every year because you're in a different place every year. The market's in a different place. So you're having to be really clear on what your intention is for the year, right? Because I think so many agents go into business planning with, I did 15 last year, so I'm going to shoot for 25 this year. And my question to them is then, cool, what are we doing different? Because you're going to have to probably either spend more time or more money doing something different to generate more business, right? What does that look like? How are you structuring that? How are you going to go after that? What is that going to do? And what does that need to do? As we look at our budget, what is that going to look at from our income standpoint? So every year, I mean, I look at it every year based on, what do you have going on? Why do you really want that this year? Why is that important to you? Yeah, Katie.
Why do I? What does my budget look like? Do I like my family time? It's like, what is that budget? Because that is a budget at times.
Absolutely.
And if I wanted to do these double my numbers, budget to the rest of life.
Yeah. And do you need to hire somebody, right? Like I'm coaching somebody right now who does a ton of transactions. And they're like, I'm like, well, my business is great. It's just coming to me. And I'm like, okay, but you're sitting here for a reason. What's your reason? They're like, well, I have no time with my family. I'm like, okay, well, is that important to you? They're like, that's the most important thing. I'm like, well, then we got to find leverage in your world. So let's figure out what that looks like. If you want to keep doing the same amount of transactions, what is that going to look like? So you buy either more time back or more money, right? So we're just looking at those things from a holistic standpoint for you guys of why do you want this? Why is that number important to you? Don't throw a dart on the wall this year and just go, it's because it sounds cool. It's a cool number. Shane said she could do it. She can do it. I can do it. Why not? And then you get halfway into it and you're like, I go, why are you doing it? And they're like, I don't know, because Shane said she could do it. So I thought it'd be cool. I mean, that's how many people I've coached that are like that will sit there and they base their goals based on somebody else's goals. And I'm like, well, is that what you want? They're like, no, it's not at all what I want. I don't even care. Like, I just want to hang out with my kids, And I'm like, well, then let's adjust your goal. Like, this is so stupid. Like, why are we doing this goal? Because somebody told me we should have, So get really clear with that goal of what that looks like. But budget versus actuals allows us to. And so at the first of the month, that's something we do in our Thrive Life group is we do our P&Ls and look at that. And we look at our budgets and the actuals every single month. And so I'm passionate about it. Sometimes one person shows up, sometimes nobody shows up, sometimes 3 people show up, but I do it because I want to do it every month for me, because that's been the thing that's changed my financial world is looking at my numbers every single month to know where am I at, what do I need to do? And almost inevitably, I mean, I am like, my goal this year was 22 and I'm at 21, and so I'm like, is when you start paying attention to your goals, it's amazing how you can kind of get really close to hitting them. And you start getting really clear with that of why that's important. Okay. All right. Any questions on that? Okay. We're doing time. Okay. So when we're looking at our financial team, these are the people you need in your world. And so a bookkeeper, I think, is really, really important. I did my own bookkeeping forever and ever, and I just am recently getting that up. Because what I've learned, I loved being my own bookkeeper because it got me in my books. It made me see where I was spending money. I had to physically do it every week, every Friday morning. That was what I did for probably 10 years. Was I went through my Quicken and I recategorized everything. I re-looked at everything. I figured out where am I spending my money, and I could adjust pretty quickly. We're at a point now where we've got multiple rentals and Airbnbs and businesses, and it's just beyond anything I can do right now. Like, it's just another job for me. So I just recently I'm working with a bookkeeper to hand that off, but I'm not going to give off the job of looking at it each week, because that's something that's still really, really important to me is where am I on track with everything? Am I on track with where I want it to be? A CPA and a tax advisor. That's one of the most, I think I've underestimated this role for the last 20 years. And now I've gone through this whole program called Wealthability. And if anybody has any interest in it, I can tell you a little bit more about it. It's awesome. But it's now looking at my CPA role. And I think Shane can probably attest to this. Like, agents, so many times they just go, here, do my taxes, right? And you're like, okay, I can plug numbers in and be like, yep, here you go. Here's what you owe. You know, we wait until it's, you know, March 29th to meet with our tax guy for the last year. There's nothing we can do about things at that point in order to change our tax liability. So I want us, if I can give any information, you guys stick anything in your brain after this, is go find a CPA that you can partner with. And by partner with, I mean, I want you thinking about having them become an advisor with you, for your wealth, for your tax liability, and what that could look like. And why this is so important is because we work so hard for our money. And how many of us love writing that quarterly check to be like, I want to pay taxes to the government because this is my favorite thing. I don't. Does anybody love paying their taxes? You do? You love paying taxes? You love paying taxes. Okay. Okay. It's your new thing. Okay. I might get you to switch your brain around a little bit. Okay. Right. But, and I would say I was the same way where I was like, I'm just going to be, I actually have money saved so I can pay my tax. I was like, yes, I was told I should save. I'm going to be doing good if I pay my quarterly taxes. What we're learning now is if you can actually be partnering with your CPA 4 times a year on those quarters and understanding at that point, what does my P&L actually look like, right? Because what you were making, your estimated taxes, so you guys know, are all based on what you did last year, right? So you may be having less income, more expenses, less expenses, different things you could be doing from a tax perspective. But looking at how do you start working with a CPA on a quarterly basis so that you're really being smart about being prepped for your taxes before it's ever even the end of the year. Okay, and we're going to get into a little bit of that here. Attorney, I think this is important for setting up your corporations. This is a really, I've said, if you need some help, I'm not going to get into the S Corp stuff too much, but I would highly encourage you guys, we'll get into this in just a second about why it's so important to incorporate and what that does from a tax standpoint. Finding an awesome insurance agent, because nothing's worse than being underinsured. So if you are owning a business, if you're owning a building, if you're owning rental properties, making sure you have the right coverage and liability so that that cannot ever be taken away from you. So that's an important one. It's not just having some fly-by-night insurance agent, it's having somebody that understands your liability and really what needs to be protected from an asset standpoint. And then a coach. And this is something that's new to me, is a financial coach. And what we're doing is, like, really, my husband and I have invested in this program, and I have a coach. We have a meeting tomorrow. We have a meeting next week. And they're like saying, here's what your retirement date wants to be. So we had to figure out, what did we want passive income? What do we have right now? How are we set up right now? How do we structure things differently as corporations and as LLCs for our rental properties? How do we structure different things with paying our kids? I'm paying my kids now, and being able to write that off through my corporation, and they're not getting any of the money. It's going to pay their college fund. So they're going to be, I'm paying them. They're not going to be actually having to pay any taxes on that because it's below the threshold. And then they're actually going to be able to use that money now to go and pay for themselves to go to college. So there's so many ways and tips and tricks on how you can now start to do this, because this year we will not pay anything in taxes. So who would like in this room to know how to do that, right? It is a huge, huge game changer. So I'm going to run through this stuff here real quick. Choosing your business entity. We've got sole proprietor, which most of you guys are in here are probably sole proprietor. Who's got a corporation set up? Okay, are you guys LLC, S Corp? S Corp? Okay, okay. And I'm an LLC filing it as an S Corp. So it's talking to your CPA about the best way and the best structure for you. So I'm not going to give any guidance on how to do that. But the most important thing I am going to do is do not listen to the CPAs that are telling you don't create a corporation. Because I can't tell you how many agents I hear that from. They're like, oh, it doesn't really make that big a difference. I mean, how much should that just save you guys this year? I know we just have 18,000 this year, right? Just yes, like straight across by becoming a corporation. So if you're hearing from, and I don't mean this in any negative way, but like if your CPA that you're talking to is like, I don't think we can do this, you need to go find a new CPA. Okay, so there's a couple books I'll give you guys to read and a couple resources at the end. Remind me to do that are really amazing, and they can get you hooked up with the right advisors. Taxes. We're gonna go through this real quick because this was something I never knew. And so I was like, oh, that's how it works. So maybe you guys knew this. I didn't know this. I was like, this is good for me to know. But our quarterly taxes, when we're looking at this, our tax due date, so what we made between January 1 and March 31st, that's what's due April 15th. Okay, so how many of us never even pay our first quarter taxes because we're just worried about paying last year's taxes come April 15th? Right? So this is actually Q1 for like 2022 would be, you're paying it based on what you made this year. April 1st to May 31st is due June 15th. June 1st to August 31st is due September 15th. And then September 1st to December 31st is due January 15th. So those are actually your quarterly tax due dates. Different types of tax we have. We obviously have federal and state income tax. We have self-employment tax, and then we have employment tax. So if you do start paying yourself, you're a corporation, you pay yourself a salary, you will pay employment taxes as well, payroll taxes, things like that. So you'll want to talk to your CPA about what that looks like. This is an interesting thing for me to understand too. So when you're looking at your federal tax brackets and you're going, gosh, I'm in the 30% tax bracket. What that actually means is that the first $10,000 if you're single, $10,275 you make, you're going to be paying 10%. Okay, so that's the most you're going to be paying is 10% of that chunk. The next chunk, which is $10,275 to $41,775, you're only going to be paying $12,000 or 12% on. The next piece of that, so again, this is probably about $48,000 of that, you're going to be paying at the 22%. And it goes on down the line. So I always had it in my head, like, oh, if I make over 200, I'm paying 35% on all of it. You're not, you're just paying these portions based on a graduated number of what that dollar amount is there. So that makes sense. I did not know that. So I don't know. Yeah. So I mean, so I always thought like, oh God, once I get up here to like, Eric, your income makes us go up to this amount. Now, like, if I didn't have your income, I wouldn't have to do 35% on all my stuff, you know, but that's not the way it works, actually. So it just is based on what, you know, when you're married and filing joint, you're looking at what these numbers are. And obviously they're much higher when you're married filing joint, but you're just paying that percentage on that chunk of when you go into the next tax bracket. So if you make 184, you're only paying that on 4,000. You're only going to be paying 24% on 4,000 at that point. Does that make sense? Okay. So I mean, I just threw that in because it was like something that was like, oh, that's good to know for me. Yeah, like I was like, yeah, right. Like you're not get so mad about it. California state tax bracket, same kind of thing. But I want you guys to look at this is what we're paying here, right? So I'm going to jump through these a little bit fast. I'll share these slides with you guys at the end. Self-employment tax. So you're paying 15.3% in self-employment tax. So 12.4% of that goes to Social Security and 2.9% goes to Medicare. Okay, that's a huge chunk, you guys, when you're looking at that. So if you're looking at California state, you've got state taxes, you've got federal taxes, you've got self-employment taxes. It's a lot, right? So death by taxes, I'm going to give you guys a really quick example of something that's about how do we start looking at at taking what we're owing in taxes and how do we start using real estate to offset it because we're a real estate professional. So if you guys can, I know it's 2 o'clock, so if you guys can hang in, I've got about 5 more minutes that this will take. So these are your, if you're at 250,000, what I did is I broke this out, said if you were to make 250,000, you would owe about 47,000 in federal taxes. Okay. And if you were, let's see, I'm screen sharing here. Let's see, can't see my number down there. Anyways, there's another number down here that's probably, I don't know, something, it's on the other page, but we'll look at what those combine up to. So this is what you would owe based on the amount that was in each of those tax brackets for your state. So here we go, 7,000. So you owed 47,000 in federal, you owed 17,960 in state, and you owed 38,000 in self-employment tax. So your total taxes owed on 250,000 is 103. So that is 41.5% of your income. Who's super stoked to go write a check to the government for that? No, right? Who wants to know how to not do that? Right? So we're going to look at understanding the tax code, and this is about, you're going to get this little snippet, and if you want more information, send me a message and I'll send you the webinar and stuff that kind of goes along with it to start understanding how this works. But we are real estate professionals. So the cool part is within the tax code, you actually get some super amazing opportunities to use your real estate tax or your real estate professionals designation to offset your taxes. Why? Because they say if you are qualified as a real estate professional, that means you have material participation in each specific rental property, which if you have rentals, that's great. Or you have material participation in a separate real estate property, trade, or business, which every single one of you guys does have that. So you are participating, this is your job. This is what you do. So these are what the rules are. So if you have people that do not necessarily aren't in the real estate professional, you got to find out what they would need to do to become a real estate professional and to qualify for this. But we're going to look at purchasing and investment money with money that we would normally be paying in taxes. So right now, the example that we're doing is Sue and Dave make $250,000 taxable income, which we just showed what that would look like. They're going to have to pay roughly $103,000 in the government. In 2017, Trump put in what's called the Tax Cut Act, something like that, of 2017. Anyways, Trump's a real estate guy, right? So he did some things to benefit buying and selling real estate. And what does that look like? Okay, so when you look at who's in government, this does make a difference with how things get written off, what bills get passed, things like that. So what he did was he basically, anytime you're purchasing a real estate, a rental property right now, you depreciate the property over 27.5 years. Okay, so hopefully most of you guys understand that and know that is investment property. You cannot depreciate the land. You can only depreciate the building cost. So in a normal property right now, we're saying, okay, if we bought a property that is 400,000 and the land value is 125,000, the building value is 275. In 27.5 years, we would normally get to write off $10,000 a year off of our taxes for that. Okay, is everybody following me so far? What he did was he put in with this tax act cut of 2017, he put in what's called bonus depreciation. So if you were to buy a property right now and be able to put it into service this year, you put $100,000 down on this property, so $25,000, and also what you would have probably been paying in taxes. Right now, we're normally depreciating that over 27.5 years. With this tax act cut, you can be writing off, it's called cost segregation. You cost segregate the building. And what that does, it takes all the assets that are inside of the building and it puts them on a normal depreciation schedule. If you understand depreciation, and some of this went over my head a lot for a long time, but if you understand the normal depreciation schedule, like the couch, that has a 5-year, depreciation schedule. This has a 5-year. This might have a 10-year. The doors may have a 10-year. So as you're looking at a building or any kind of a rental property, they can go inside and assess all of the assets that are inside of the building, which is about 30% of the cost of the actual building. And you can be writing off 100% of that in year 1, which is amazing. So when you're looking at that and you're saying, what could you be doing? In this example, you can now be taking that because you're a real estate professional, you are actually have the ability to write that off as a direct loss against your income. If you went and had a normal job and you own real estate, you cannot do that. Okay, so this is this huge benefit for owning real estate. So you can be doing that with either purchasing a property right now, or if you guys have rental properties that you already own, that's what we're doing this year. We went in and got a cost segregation on all of our properties. And that's so they changed our depreciation schedule from 27.5 years down to 5, 10, or 15 years. And that's actually, we got to do what's called catch-up depreciation. And it's awesome. So we're actually able to not have to pay any taxes this year. So it is a huge opportunity for you guys. If you guys do own rental properties or you're thinking about it, why this is important for you guys as real estate professionals, or even now how to use that in your business for things. So I know that was really fast, but I know we're out of time. So if you guys have questions, you want some more info on it, then reach out to me and let me know. And I could be happy to shoot you guys over all of the resources on it. But it's such a huge way. When I know when everybody says buy properties, buy properties, buy properties, buy properties, there's a reason, right? There's a reason that most of the people that are really wealthy own a ton of real estate. Andrew. Well, you're still going to have some of it will still be depreciated over the 27.5 years. Yeah, but we actually are going in with like a strategy because we're like, we want to be retired in 10 years. So we actually have a super clear strategy on what we need to do every single year. Like, what do I need to be making? What do I need to be investing?
Can you give us that maybe for couples too that want the goal is, something to employee. Is staggered a very high percentage of that. So if we're doing them depreciation this year, it'll be enough for a down payment next year for rent.
Yeah, you could use that too. So, yeah, I mean, you could be doing it on your own or, yeah, absolutely. So it just kind of looks at what your combined taxes are. So I think the most important piece I think I can get out of this is your CPA is really, really important. So finding an awesome kick-ass CPA that you guys love. And so on that last page of this, though, you guys are gonna find a to-do list here. And so what I want you to be looking at is kind of looking, when you take this home and say, where am I? Where do I wanna go? So page 2 is where am I at? Page 3 is where do I wanna go? What do I need to be putting into my business? What's an action plan? Some action steps to be putting into your business. So that's what this looks like. So, you know, any questions, any thoughts kind of around any of that? I know this was a whole lot of information in an hour to kind of shove in there, but the book resources, Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. And then he has a company called Wealthability that their whole thing is about how to figure out how to utilize things that are beneficial through your taxes, which would be like purchasing real estate, how to use that to benefit you to grow your wealth faster. So they're basically like a wealth strategist, not a financial planner. They're a wealth strategist with your CPA and your attorneys and stuff like that. It's awesome. It's an amazing program. So I would highly encourage you guys to do that. And then I'll send to everybody that showed up today, we'll send you guys a personal budget sheet. We'll send you a business budget sheet, and it's a business budget in detail. And then if you guys want to do some individual consulting with me, let me know. I'd be happy to sit down with you and spend a couple of, 1-hour sessions to really get your business plans dialed for next year. And then, thank you. Hi, nice to see you.
Party. It's the best part of the holiday season. Come grab a tag or two, kids and the seniors.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for letting us use your space.
You're welcome.
You guys are the best.
What's for?
You guys are the best. And then if you are not but we'll be back with classes all next year, so kind of be on the lookout for that and just doing the stuff pouring back into you guys. And anything you guys have specific stuff you guys want classes on, and I got resources for pretty much anything. So if you're like, hey, I want to learn more about that, like I just want to bring the value to you guys, what you guys are doing. So thank you guys for coming.